All right, Tucker, we are back. We're live. This is episode, 6 of the Lineup Legends podcast? Is that right? Something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Anyways, we've now had 2 total viewers, so things are trending up for us. But we're entering week 8, and I have to say last week was a pretty big week for us because, we were pretty polarizing on a few different topics. And I feel like last week all of them went my way. Like I gotta say I couldn't miss last week, but I know that this is a weekly game, and I've got a few more spicy takes coming your way, and I'm thinking maybe you have some positive karma and regression coming your way. So I'm excited to see what takes you have for us today. Do you think you have anything to mix it up?
I've got to hope so. See, normally I think my takes are pretty good, and then you're like, "Wait, that's a take you have." So I fully expect, my takes to be spicier than I realize, which is, we'll take it.
I will say, I think the good thing about this podcast is we constantly butt heads and disagree. there's like it's hard to get anything where we're both on the exact same page with. So it's good to know that we're actually having real opinions here and not just going with the flow. So
right.
We'll see where that takes us for week 8. But let's go ahead and just dive in. Before we jump into the games, though, is there anything you want to mention just in general about week 8, or should we just go for it?
There are just a couple like injury updates, but outside of that, not really. We got several people kind of trending towards being out this week. Miles Sanders, maybe Joe Mixon, maybe Aaron Jones again. These are all guys you want to keep an eye on, because if they are out, their backups are great fantasy plays, DFS and just every week plays. So keep an eye out on that. And
I mentioned. Yeah, cool. I mentioned on a waiver podcast that I thought the Packers were going to keep Aaron Jones out again. Things are trending that way. Jamal Williams, another smash play. We'll get to it when we cover the Packers, but yeah, him, Chris Carson, and Carlos Hyde. That whole situation's muddied right now. Who's the other big one? Gio and Joe Mixon. I feel like Joe Mixon's going to miss that one, and you're probably happy about that as a Bernard owner. And then the last one was Mark Ingram. So, if you want to throw Dobbins or Gus Edwards in the flex, we'll see. But we'll cover that more in detail as we get to the games. Are you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Okay, so first up, we have the Thursday night game, which I'm really excited for. This is Falcons-Panthers. I feel like this game has I would be going for the over on this. The over under 49 between the Panthers and the Falcons. I would at least expect a 50-point over under. The Falcons defense isn't anything to write home about. So I don't know. What are you expecting for this game? Because I think it'll be way more high scoring than that.
Yeah, the Falcons defense not good. The Panthers defense not great. Their secondary is okay, but their run defense is not great. The Falcons are going to score points either way, so you can depend on that. The question would be the Panthers on if they're going to score a lot of points, and they will against this defense. It's not every game, but this game, yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'd be taking the over. I expect a lot of points in this game. I think it's going to be a really fun Thursday night football game. I think the big players to keep an eye on would be, or at least, at the very least, to definitely plug in your lineup, would be, Todd Gurley. I think against this run defense, he'll have a good game. This will probably be his last good game for a while because the schedule gets quite a bit tougher. So if he has a big game here, look to sell high. And then you got Julio and Calvin Ridley, obviously. What do you think about Russell Gage this week as a play against the Panthers?
Dude, I feel like you are just the biggest Russell Gage guy. I feel like you're always adding and dropping him, always bringing him up. I think he's fine, but this is a tough matchup. You're right. The Panthers secondary is pretty good, giving up the 4th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers. So I think Julio and Ridley are going to get theirs, but it makes me wonder how much is left over for Gage and, a high scoring game that isn't the easiest matchup for the wide receivers. I think he's just like all the guys I feel like we talk about, like Adam Humphries, Cole Beasley. I feel like he's a flex. Gage is a flex if you need it, you know what I mean? But I'm not starting him over other options that have a bit more upside because I'm not sure I see the upside for him. But he's another one of those PPR plays that, has value on a week-to-week basis. Do you agree with that, or are we at odds again?
No. We do agree with that. I think Russell Gage is a flex play this week at the very least. If you need him, he seems to produce a lot better when all the receivers are healthier, and that's something I'll buy into a little bit, at least until he burns me real bad. But no, I see him as a flex option. Yeah.
Cool. I don't think we need to go player by player or anything. Like, is there anything you want to talk about here? I mean, I think I love
on the
DJ
Panthers
Moore.
side
I
of
love
the ball,
Robbie Anderson.
just a little bit. You like DJ Moore more? Okay. I was going to say I'm still looking at Robbie Anderson, or Robinson as I like to call him. But yeah, I think my guy's still Robbie Anderson. Real quick, Christian McCaffrey. They're hopeful. The team is hopeful he'll play, but they also said they're trying to be smart. So it is pretty up in the air. We should know today, obviously today, but early today whether or not he'll be playing. I don't think he'll be a true game time decision. But keep an eye on that. There's a lot of question marks on if Mike Davis is going to participate and be have a role in this offense moving forward. And Matt Rule says that he will. So CMC's value could be a little bit lower after this injury for the rest of the season.
I think McCaffrey plays next week. I think they're just getting him to practice now. I don't think he's going to play. They definitely don't want to push him. But I love DJ Moore. I love Robbie Anderson. I mean, Atlanta's giving up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. So this is a matchup, they can win. And I think they're both seem to now be like pretty much ranked right next to each other in a lot of rankings. And I honestly, at this point, I pretty much agree with that. Like Robbie gets more targets typically, but Moore just seems to have the big play upside. I think he is like the more talented wide receiver, but they each have kind of a unique skill set, and I think it's playing out well in this offense. I don't think necessarily there has to be one is good, one is bad. I think they're both going to be weekly producers for sure.
Right, especially against this defense. I think they're both plays this week. Robbie Anderson is just a little cheaper in DFS. All right, moving on to Vikings at Packers. What you got on this one, Packers expert Steven?
This game is going to be awesome for both DFS purposes and for starting your guys in fantasy. It has an over-under of 54.5. That's tied for highest in the league. Packers are favored by 7. So if you were fortunate enough to grab Jamal Williams off the waiver wire last week or even this week, he could get a lot of run. The Packers are favored here. I expect them to get a nice lead to start this game, and then they maybe have to run some clock. So maybe it's Jamal Williams and A.J. Dillon, getting heavy workloads. Primarily Jamal Williams. Don't fall for the A.J. Dillon play, because last week people were falling for that. But I mean, the Vikings have, with Dalvin Cook back, they're able to score too. They got Thielen, Justin Jefferson. I'm starting everybody in this game. I think both offenses are going to put up points, and I think it's going to be a fun shootout that the Packers end up winning.
Right. I agree. I agree with all that. I think I have a little preview here. I think I have Dalvin Cook and Devontae Adams both in my DFS lineup for this week. I think they're both smash plays. They're going to be great.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook, he gets the Packers defense that have not been great against the run, and Devontae Adams is just going to absolutely dominate this week. He's in my DFS lineup as well. Vikings giving up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Devontae Adams has 2 40-point games this season. I mean, that's insane. And Aaron Jones is out. Like, he's going to get fed. This game is a big over-under. I think Devontae Adams just goes off again. So, yeah, I'm all in on him this week.
Agreed. You taking the over-under on this game?
I'm going to take the under on this one. I just think it's more likely that the Packers come out ahead early. I don't know that the Vikings are necessarily going to be able to keep up, but with Dalvin Cook back, I think, there's a chance. So I'm not the biggest sports betting guy in terms of the over-under or anything, but I think I'm tempted to go the under here just because I'm not positive the Vikings can keep up.
All right, and I assume you'll be taking the Packers. I assume you'll be taking the Packers here as well, and I'll be looking at the under as well.
Packers, absolutely. What about you?
Yeah, same here. Probably the under and the Packers as well. But I expect a lot of good fantasy points out of this game, though.
Absolutely. Another great game for fantasy purposes with a 54.5 point under a 54.5 point over under is Titans Bengals. A lot of guys you can start in this one. The Titans are favored by 6. This one I think could be very fun to watch. You're starting Tannehill. Derrick Henry is a great play. AJ Brown after a big week last week is in a great spot. What do you think about this Titans offense? Any thoughts on these guys in season long or DFS?
Yeah, Derek is my number 2 running back for the week, so I think he's going to be great. I mean, the Bengals are not going to be able to contain him. They will try, but they will not. They will not succeed. We saw last week that no one's really going to succeed in stopping Derrick Henry as the game progresses. But I really like this offense as a whole this week. Tannehill I think is a great play. AJ Brown. I think Jonnu Smith's going to have a nice bounce back game after only getting one reception last week. What do you think about Corey Davis? He's been pretty productive this season as a fantasy wide receiver.
I don't love it. I mean, I think he's just another one. No, I can't. I just can't buy in. Like, I think typically, maybe Corey Davis maybe has, flex appeal this week. But I think when, just because this is going to be a shootout, but in games where the Titans want to run their game script that's run heavy, focusing on Derrick Henry, I don't think there's enough volume to go around to support AJ Brown, Jonnu Smith, and Corey Davis. I think Brown and Smith are going to be playable every week, and I think Davis is going to have those weeks where he pops, as we've seen in the past with him, but I don't think he's a reliable weekly starter or anything like that. Do you agree, or are you in on the Corey Davis?
No, I do agree. I think he's had a very productive fantasy season this year, but I think a lot of that is attributed to an injured AJ Brown. Last week, I hampered Jonnu Smith, and I don't think a lot of people are taking that into account. I don't expect Corey Davis to be a super valuable fantasy asset moving forward, but I think a lot of people are going to buy into that. Don't buy into Corey Davis. Just don't buy into Corey Davis. It's never worth it. The moment you get him off the wire and you put him in your lineup, he's going to score like 3 points. Just don't buy into Corey Davis. It's not worth it.
I was worried this was going to be one of those situations where you're all in on this guy and I'm going to have to talk it down, but it sounds like we're seeing eye to eye.
Corey Davis has proven his worth, and it's not a lot of money.
Smash spot for Jonnu Smith. Bengals are giving up the 3rd most fantasy points to tight ends, 12.6 points a game. Game is a high over. Oh, gosh, I keep saying under. High over under. Titans are going to be throwing the ball a ton. I love Jonnu Smith in this game. Unfortunately, I'm playing it against him in season-long leagues this week, so tough for me. But yeah, I love him this week. Let's move over to the Bengals side of the ball. What do you think about the Bengals offense in this one?
I expect them to do well, especially the passing attack. I think this Titans secondary is kind of vulnerable. They've shown that against opposing wide receivers. So I like Joe Burrow a lot. The difficulty is knowing which receivers to play. Which receivers on the Bengals side are you in on this week?
I think you can make the argument to start all of them, but the guys I'm in on this week are Boyd and Higgins. I know that Green's had, I guess, a couple great weeks back to back. Like, he's getting the targets again. It seems like they're involving the offense again, whether that's for trade purposes, who's to say. But I think the upside guys are T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. I mean, you want to start those guys, and I think you can start AJ Green. This is a matchup where I think they're all going to get production. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. All of them is what I would do. Tyler Boyd, I think, is locked in. T. Higgins is at least a very high upside play. AJ Green, I think they have one more week, right? They have one more week to really show him off before the trade deadline, and I think they're going to try and continue to do that until that deadline passes. So I expect a lot of targets for him again. And I think the Bengals wide receivers are all going to have really good games. And then Gio Bernard, if Mixon doesn't play, add him into that mix. He's gonna do well as well.
Yeah, I think given that the Bengals have a bye next week, I just think it makes too much sense for them to hold out Joe Mixon another week.
Exactly.
Given that he was described as week to week like a few days ago, I don't see him suiting up this one.
Agreed with that for sure.
All right, so let's go to the next game, which is just going to be a absolute slaughter. We have the Jets and the Chiefs. Man, the Jets are just this is going to be a tough one to watch. The Chiefs are going to go bonkers, I think, in the first half, and then literally just drain clock on the Jets. This game has an over-under of 49, which is decent until you consider that the Chiefs are favored by 19.5. Like, dude, 19.5. Is there anybody you want to start on the Jets offense?
No. Honestly, no. The Chiefs defense has been super, super good. And this is going to be a joke of a game. We don't even have to spend that much time on it because it's just, I mean, start your Chiefs. You know, don't worry about the Jets. It's not a good spot.
Yeah, I think that's pretty simply put here. Start all your Chiefs and leave all your Jets on the waiver wire is how I would describe it. Jamison Crowder, if he plays, fine, throw him in there. But the Chiefs have been tough on wide receivers, so don't even get excited about that. But garbage time. Yeah, aside from that, I'm totally out. The one thing I do want to talk about is I personally think Clyde and Le'Veon are going to see around a 50-50 split. What do you think about that backfield for the Chiefs?
I see it as a little bit different. I think Clyde will get more touches for sure. I think a lot of people want to lean towards Le'Veon maybe getting those touches because they want to see it again. But the Chiefs have made it pretty clear, at least like in the spoken terms, that Clyde is their guy. And it didn't necessarily show last week, but I think last week was just a tad different. They neither of them got a whole lot of touches, and it was their defense doing the job. This week, I expect Clyde to get the majority of the carries. I think it's going to be more of like a 14-8 kind of thing, where Clyde gets about 14 carries on a regular basis. But we'll see. You know, they don't always pan out the way you think. So.
Yeah, I could see a 50-50 split just because of how this game script is going to go. Like, I mean, Le'Veon's second week in the offense going against his former team. I think they're going to want to feed him a bit, especially in the second half when they're just running clock, just to get his feet wet in the offense his second week learning the system. Yeah, I think it could be closer to 60-40 season long, but I think Le'Veon, you know, is a decent long shot flex play this week. Sorry, the bug. Decent long shot flex play this week. If you need it against a weak Jets run defense ranked.
Yep, I didn't really consider the revenge game. The revenge game does make a difference. We'll see though. We'll see.
Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out.
Time shall tell. I think they're both. You know, I think Clyde you can start as an RB2. Le'Veon Bell probably a nice flex play if you need it.
Okay, sounds good. Let's move to Colts Lions. Colts coming off the bye, over under 50, and the Colts are favored by 3. Tucker, what do you expect to see on the Colts offense coming out of the bye week?
The only thing I'm really going to be looking at is Jonathan Taylor. I don't really want a piece of the receiving game. Maybe Trey Burton, but I still just don't feel great about it. Hopefully you have another guy. But Jonathan Taylor's the guy I'll be looking at. He's been not extremely productive, but against the Detroit Lions, you know, I like it a lot. So.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor is taking on the 4th worst defense against opposing fantasy running backs. So I think he's an absolute smash. I think coming out of the bye, they've probably worked with him and how to kind of ramp him up in this offense. And on top of that, I think this is going to be a back and forth game where, you know, he gets some catches out of the backfield. I think they're not going to be forced into a run only game script, but I think he's going to be plenty involved both on the ground and through the air. And lastly, yeah, I don't think any of those receiving options stick out to me. I know Michael Pittman might be back. I saw he was either designated to return or practicing, something like that. I'm not really interested. There's no volume. There's not enough volume here in this offense. Right. But I agree. The guy I'm watching is Jonathan Taylor, and he's one of my DFS plays. I love him this week. I think he's going to go off.
Yep. Agreed. What about the Lions side of the ball? What are you seeing?
On the Lions side of the ball, this is a tough matchup with Indianapolis. I'm not super excited to start, you know, DeAndre Swift this week, just given how the Colts have been against the run. They're giving up the 27th most fantasy points to running backs, so bottom 10 in the league. But given that this is a game where the Lions are going to have to throw, I think this is going to be a back and forth game. I think Swift is a fine play, but I don't think he's in a smash spot by any means. And then you're starting Galladay. I'd probably try to sit Stafford for this one, given he didn't even perform in a great matchup last week. Yeah, I'm not. There's just Hawkinson. I guess you're throwing him out there. Like, what do you think about the Lions offense? Like, I think it's pretty much Galladay at this point. But you can start Swift and Hawkinson if you need to.
Agreed. Yeah, I think Galladay is the only one I'm really hoping to start. I mean, Hawkinson's fine, and he has that touchdown upside. DeAndre Swift, if you need him, ideally not, but he'll probably still get some receptions and work that. So, if you need him, ideally it's just Galladay though.
It's just a bad spot given that the Colts are literally giving up the fewest fantasy points to opposing tight ends, 2.3 fantasy points per game. That's actually ridiculous. Literally 2.3 fantasy points per game. That's crazy. So I don't like Hawkinson this week, but if you're stuck, tight ends, then you might have to do it.
Right, exactly.
Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and move on to a more exciting game, Steelers-Ravens. I'm really excited for this one. This game has an over-under of 46.5. Could be one of those slower games that we see in that division. Ravens favored by 3.5, but the Steelers, they've been looking real good this season. What do you expect for this game overall?
I'm also super excited for this game. Been looking forward to it. I expect a shootout when it comes down to it. I think both teams are pretty fast paced, pretty like high intensity, and so I think more or less defenses they're not gonna crumble completely, but it's gonna be to the point where these teams are gonna end up just kind of scoring back and forth because these are two quarterbacks I think that can figure out a defense pretty fast. They are two very good defenses, so that could be wrong. It could end up being just a huge defensive game, but I think there's gonna be a lot of points scored instead. I guess I like Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, let's talk about this because Deontay Johnson, I fully expect him to play. He was Tomlin didn't even mention Deontay Johnson when he talking about the injured players this week, even though he was held out of practice. We see that with those guys on that team. They're rested on Wednesdays typically. He was listed as a toe injury, which the injury he obtained at the end of last game was ankle. So I think he's fine. He's been battling the toe all season. I don't love Deontay Johnson this week just because it's a tough matchup. Mm-hmm. The Ravens are giving up the 7th fewest fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. But that being said, this game I think could be more offensive than the over-under would indicate, or offense heavy, I should say. So I like Deontay Johnson this week. I actually really like him. Coming off a great week last week, he's getting peppered with targets. Really like him. And then I think Juju and Claypool you can start, but I think one of those guys, there's a good chance he gives you a dud. What do you think about the receiving core in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I agree. I think Deontay Johnson's probably your safest at this point as long as he plays.
Can you say that one more time for me? I just needed you to hear that after our arguments the past few weeks.
No, I won't humor you here. I'm sorry. I won't. I said it once, and I'm not saying it again.
It's okay. We have it recorded. I can make it my alarm in the morning.
Listen, if I am the Steelers, I'm looking at the Chiefs film against the Ravens because the Chiefs demolished them through the air. So I honestly think the Steelers could do that as well with these receivers that they have. Again, as usual, you can't cover everyone. So I don't know if it's Juju or who it's going to be. Hopefully it's Chase Claypool. But there's going to be two receivers in this offense that have a good week against the Ravens. And then as for James Conner, obviously still a start. I do like him a little bit less against this Ravens defense. But I think he's still good for 80 yards and a touchdown. As it's almost like his thing that he does every single week. He's pretty consistent with that. And then as for the Ravens side of the ball, it's hard to really like their receivers. I think Lamar's creative in the way he gets things done. It's not always one guy. but I do like Lamar. I think he's gonna have a really, really good game here against even against this Steelers defense. I think he's gonna be forced to run a lot, which is actually a good thing for him. You know, he hasn't been running as much this season, but when he's forced to run, I think he's gonna be able to make plays. He hasn't really been forced to run in that way this season, probably until this game. So.
Yeah, I agree. I really like Lamar in this one, even though it's a tough matchup. Everyone else on the Ravens offense, except Mark Andrews, you're still rolling him out there, hoping, even though he's been mad inconsistent this year. Tough matchup for him too. But I mean, the Ravens receivers and running backs, to be honest, I'm trying to stay away from if I can. If Mark Ingram sits, yes, Dobbins and Edwards could have flex value. You just gotta hope they're able to get something done. Dobbins in the passing game, Edwards maybe getting a touchdown or two. But the receivers, I mean, Marquise Brown, I think if you need to, you can play him. But all those guys, I'm trying to stay away from if I can, just because I think Lamar is able to have a good game here, but I'm not sure about those other guys.
Right. Yeah. Mark Ingram still not practicing. So it's probably going to be Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. I don't really trust them against the Steelers. It's just, I mean, their yards per carry has not been very good. It's not going to be good against this defense because this defense is very good. I think I'd rather be rostering someone like JaMychal Hasty or even DJ Dallas for the Seahawks. They're both on my team. Well, I'm just thinking of I'm thinking of rosterable backups, and those two guys I think have more upside if they play this week than Gus Edwards or J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, that one's a tough one. Like, I love J.K. Dobbins this year, and I know you're bigger on Gus Edwards. I'm not sure if now is the time. Like, Ingram might even play, but even if he doesn't, Dobbins just has such tough matchups coming up, beginning with this one in Pittsburgh. Like, I don't know how possible the true breakout is, but given his work in the passing game, if Ingram sits, I'd be fine flexing him if you're desperate.
Okay, moving on.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next game. We have Rams-Dolphins. In Tua's first start, the Rams are favored by 4 with an over-under of 46. How do you feel Tua's going to do here? You're the Alabama grad. You've seen him play. What should we expect for the young quarterback?
So I do think he's eventually going to be very, very good in the NFL. I think this week's going to be more of a test run, kind of like what you'd see with any rookie quarterback. You'd love to see him walk out there and just somehow dominate the Rams, but I don't think that's going to be it. Don't expect that. I think he's going to be hitting short passes, not a lot of deep looks, mostly slants and screens, that kind of thing, just to make sure he's back into it. This is his first real it's his first start, but first real game back from that injury. And it was a pretty bad injury, so I think they're going to take it slow. I do expect people like Myles Gaskin. I think Myles Gaskin will get a lot of receptions this week. And I will say I am scared for Tua against Aaron Donald in his first start ever. Sounds a little rough. It's a rough spot to put someone in, but yeah, I do think he'll do fine. I think fine is the word.
Yeah, tough matchup for him to come into. Rams giving up the 6th fewest fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. So hopefully you're not starting Tua this week, like kind of a wait and see thing. You can bench stash him if you want, but yeah, tough matchup against the Rams defense. What else do you like on this Dolphins offense given the matchup with the Rams? You mentioned Gaskin. I think he's a fine play given his PPR work in the receiving game. What about these receivers and Mike Gesicki? What do you think about the pass catchers?
Gesicki, I think I like. Tua's not known for checking down to his tight end. He's good at hitting those tall receivers in stride. Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, those guys. So Devontae Parker, I actually think I might actually bump him up a little bit from where he was with Fitzpatrick, just because Fitzpatrick wasn't giving him targets. I think he's the type of player, especially after coming off a bye, he's a little more healthy now. I think he's the type of player that Tua will be looking towards. Just kind of those slants down the center of the field, that kind of thing. But as for anyone else, Preston Williams, those guys, I'm not very interested.
Yeah, I think among the Rams defense, the one position that they've actually given up some points to 8.8 points a game to the tight end. Yeah, I think you can start Gesicki. I'm personally more of like I'd like to see him have 1 week with Tua just because of the inconsistency he's shown this season. I could see the narrative where he's Tua's safety blanket, but I think that's sometimes used a little too often with rookie quarterbacks. I can see that happening, but Gesicki's been running deeper routes. His average depth of target is actually pretty deep for a tight end. He's been running that big slot role in the Dolphins offense under Chan Gailey. So I don't know that he's going to be the underneath guy that Tua might rely on if he's under pressure from Aaron Donald and all those guys. So I don't know. I think Gesicki, given how thin tight end is, you can play him. And I think he's like on the tight end one fringe, but I think he could just be a total dud. Who knows how this plays out, but I want to side with the Rams defense here in a rookie's first ever starter quarterback.
Yeah, definitely. I think Gaskin will be more of a safety blanket. Alabama ran a lot of little running back screens like that, so it would not surprise me.
Yeah, completely agree. Okay, nice. Let's go ahead and move on to the Rams side of the ball. What do you think about the offense here against the Dolphins?
I don't like the Rams offense. It's incredibly frustrating to watch. You can't really plan on anyone having a consistent week. I'm hoping for a big game from these Rams so you can sell them high. You know, any of them, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, maybe not Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson's the one person that I'm okay with like rostering and starting every week and feeling comfortable about it because I think he's getting those touches. The rest of them, you hope for a big week, and then I think you try to sell high.
Yep. The only Rams player I want to start is Darrell Henderson, and I think he's a great start. He's in my DFS lineup. He's a pretty cheap play, sitting at $6,100. But I love him against this Miami defense that is giving up, giving up 22.6 fantasy points to running backs on a weekly basis. So I like Darrell Henderson in a game where the Rams are favored, and I think they could go out ahead early if Tua struggles. So I like Henderson to get heavy work, especially given the fact that Akers is not a thing. They're not even using Akers, so it's Henderson and then Brown. So I like Henderson to get maybe a 100-yard game here and a chance at a touchdown against the Dolphins.
Yeah, not a bad take. I like it. I'm not super opposed. I don't like Darrell Henderson. I don't like this offense, but I mean, I think he's getting the carries. He'll do well.
Yep. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to Patriots Bills. This one should be interesting. Let's see. The Bills are favored by 4, over under of 43. So this is expected to be a defensive battle here, especially coming off the Patriots' just terrible showing last week against the Niners. Let's talk about the Patriots offense for a second. Like, I don't think you want to start Cam Newton after last week. I don't know that you should roster him after last week. We need to give it another week and see if he's even still got it in the tank, or if that was kind of an indication of what we should expect moving forward. Are you out on Cam moving forward, or do you think he was just in a rough patch coming off the COVID list and can turn it around?
Listen, I don't want to start any of the Patriots. None of them. Not even James White. I think they have to. I mean, yeah, you got to wait a week and just see what's going on there because they're in shambles. Cam has looked horrible the past 2 weeks, just throwing. I mean, directly to opposing corners. It's just directly to them. So no, I'm out on Cam as of right now. I mean, he could prove me wrong and turn things back around, but when he was doing well in the beginning, he wasn't actually throwing the ball that much. He was doing a lot of running, which is where he was succeeding. I don't trust his arm. I don't trust his decision making right now, and I'm gonna have to see something else before I can start him again.
Yep. So sit all of your Patriots. Let's go ahead and move on to the Bills. Who do you like on the Bills offense this week?
So I do think the Patriots defense is going to work on taking out their best player, who at this point in time is Stephon Diggs. So I think Stephon Diggs will be a little bit hampered this game by this defense. But Josh Allen will still. I think he's due for a little bit better game. I know he's not been well, but I think he should be okay. I know Belichick's probably going to try and mess with him a lot, but when it comes down to it, I think he'll get the job done and be okay. Cole Beasley is, I think, another in for another like flex appeal game. John Brown should be back from injury. However, he was supposed to be back last week, and he was still pretty hobbled on the field. I think he's having a tough time coming back from this injury. So I think Cole Beasley is the obvious backup if Stephon Diggs is taken out of the game. So it'll be that. I don't like the running back game at all here.
Okay. All right. I pretty much agree. I think Zach Moss is a guy I want on my bench, but I don't want to be forced to play him this week. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the Raiders and the Browns. This game is expected to be a fun one. 53.5-point over-under. Browns favored by 2.5. Odell Beckham, unfortunately, out for the season with the injury. Who do you think steps up for the Browns offense?
It's got to be Jarvis. Rashard Higgins, there's a lot of hype over Rashard Higgins. I think we talked about this on Tuesday. I'm just not super in on that. Odell was hardly getting the targets to be a starter. Potentially Harrison Bryant. He got 2 touchdowns last week. I don't think Hooper's expected to be back. So clearly Baker likes Harrison Bryant in the end zone. And then Kareem Hunt for sure. Kareem Hunt is my number 3 running back on the week, and I think he's gonna have a really, really good week here. I expect a lot of points from him. But that's about it.
Yeah, Hunt's gonna absolutely eat this week. Raiders defense has been terrible against opposing running backs, and I think they're gonna be leaning on him a lot in a game that should be pretty high scoring. Let's move on to the Raiders side of the ball. Josh Jacobs, I think, is a great start at running back. Outside of him, is there anyone you're throwing out there on the Raiders side of the ball? Darren Waller, how do you feel about him? And any of these pass catchers, do you like them this week?
It's just Darren Waller. I don't really think I like any of the other guys. Josh Jacobs should be a lot better this week after having his O-line actually practice this week. Probably helps a lot. So I expect him to have a good game here as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think we see eye to eye there. Let's go ahead and move on to Chargers Broncos. I'm really liking the Chargers under Justin Herbert. I think they're gonna handle the Broncos pretty easily here, but they're only favored by 3. Game has an over-under of 44 points. I love Keenan Allen. Ever since Herbert took over, he's peppering Keenan Allen with targets. It's insane. Unfortunately, that means you probably don't want to start Mike Williams until you see it. He really only had that big game with Keenan Allen out of the lineup. So, I love Keenan Allen this week. Love Justin Herbert. But Josh Kelly and Justin Jackson, I think they're going to be around a 50-50 split again. And I think those guys are flex if you need to. If you're desperate, I think they're a flex option they're getting catches out of the backfield. Seems like Herbert is comfortable passing to his running backs. So there are worse options out there. Do you agree with this take on the Chargers offense, or is there anything you want to point out?
I agree completely. I think Hunter Henry will do fine as well. But Keenan Allen I love Keenan Allen. Big fan of his at the moment. He's getting so many targets. I know you're a fan because I've heard from a couple of our league mates.
He ran that trade by you? Dude, you're the reason I didn't get Keenan Allen. Oh man. Come on. He texted us.
What was the trade you offered for Keenan Allen?
I could have offered a better deal. I offered DJ Moore and Matthew Stafford for Keenan Allen. Listen, the guy's starting Goff at quarterback, so I figured, okay, a little upgrade at quarterback and give him DJ Moore, who's been just fine in his own right. Because I think this is the last week you're going to be able to get Keenan Allen at even a reasonable price. I think once people realize what they have in him moving forward with Herbert at quarterback, it's a lock. No one's going to be partying with Allen after this week, I don't think. Once he gets double-digit targets yet again. So I'm all in on Allen. Bench Mike Williams until we see it again. And then if you're desperate, you can start either Justin Jackson or Josh Kelly.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I just thought it was hilarious. I was like, yeah, Keenan Allen's a great target. And then I saw that you were offering DJ Moore. And I was like, okay. His true feelings revealed.
I love DJ Moore, but he's just not getting the targets Keenan Allen is.
That's right. That's fair. That's fair. It would be an upgrade, no doubt.
PPR league targets volume is king. So
definitely.
Broncos side of the ball, I mean, Noah Fant, fine. Chargers haven't been great against tight ends. Hopefully he's a little healthier a week off of that injury, or hopefully he's a little healthier with another week of healing under his belt. Are you starting Jerry Jeudy? Like, I personally wouldn't want to, but do you think he's a decent starter?
No. I think it's Noah Fant and Melvin Gordon, and that's pretty much done there. Hey, Melvin Gordon or Clyde Edwards-Helaire this week?
Melvin Gordon, because I think Philip Lindsay's probably going to miss the game. I think he's still in concussion protocol, if I'm correct. So I would definitely prefer Melvin Gordon there.
Okay, agreed. Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to Saints-Bears. This one has an over-under of 44. Saints are favored by 4. On the Bears side of the ball, I love Jimmy Graham here. Saints are giving up the second most points to tight ends. And it's a revenge game for Jimmy Graham. So I think they're going to have to be playing catch up a little bit. And he's seen 5 targets in, I believe, every game with Nick Foles, which is just insane. Graham's quietly been a reliable fringe tight end 1, which, as he's not giving you zeros, which is great. And he's had a 24-point game under his belt. So I think he's a fine start here. David Montgomery on pure volume. He doesn't have the efficiency, but I think he's a fine start here. He's getting crazy volume in the passing game with Tariq Cohen out. So I like him. And then I think you're throwing Allen Robinson out there hoping that he turns things around. What's your take on the Bears offense?
Yeah, exactly what you said. Jimmy Graham's been in the tight end 1 conversation. I think every week, honestly, he's been getting those targets. He's really a part of this offense. David Montgomery is getting all those targets as well, and just all the volume. There's no one else there to carry the ball. And then Allen Robinson, I think the Saints defense proved last week that they're still not, even with Janoris Jenkins back, they're still not able to guard those receivers. So he's a good option as well.
Yep. Okay. Saints, break down their offense for us.
Michael Thomas expected to be back. I don't think Emmanuel Sanders is quite yet. So really, it's going to be.
Is Thomas supposed to play? I thought he was still on the wrong side of questionable.
Could be. I could be wrong.
Okay, well, we'll see about that one. But
supposed to be the injury guy. He's the one guy I didn't look into because I just don't like him as a player. But if he is back, he's obviously a good play because that means he's healthy. But Alvin Kamara is the guy that I really want to look at. I mean, the other guys, I'm just not very interested. What's his name? Marquez.
I don't even want to talk about any of the Saints receivers because I don't want to start any of them. Yep.
Good deal. I'm with you. Yeah.
All right. 49ers Seahawks. This game is going to be insane. I'm very excited for this one. I feel like the Seahawks just create classics. Every game they play in turns into a classic. 54-point over/under. Seattle favored by 3. I'm starting everyone on the Seattle offense. Whoever's in a running back, whether it's Carlos Hyde or DJ Dallas, I want to start that guy. Even if it's a tough matchup with the Niners, this game is going to be back and forth with plenty of scoring opportunities. You're starting DK, you're starting Tyler Lockett, especially after his crazy last week, and you're starting Russ. Do you disagree with any of that?
No, totally in on that.
Okay, Niners. Brandon Ayuk is a great start with Deebo Samuel out. I think him and Kittle are going to have big weeks because they're really the only 2 weapons Jimmy G has to work with this week. I think Jimmy G is a nice, cheap DFS play against a bad Seattle secondary. And I think on the ground, whoever is healthy, if it's Tevin Coleman, if he's activated, I like him as a start. If it's JaMychal Hasty, I like him as a start. Jerick McKinnon, they're not using him like they were earlier in the season, so I would keep him on the bench. Anything you want to say about the Niners?
Nope. Agree in full.
Okay. Break down this game for us. We have Cowboys and Eagles. Cowboys have just looked terrible lately. The Eagles are favored by 7.5. I'm excited to talk about this game because I've got a good take here coming in. But first, talk to us about the Cowboys side of the ball. Are you starting anybody?
Amari Cooper and Zeke, I think, are still definitely startable. It's supposed to be Ben DiNucci. I think Andy Dalton's out, concussion. I don't want to start CeeDee Lamb. I don't want to start Michael Gallup. Amari Cooper, I think, will still be okay. I think, DiNucci actually threw a good pass to him, like on one of his first passing attempts down the sideline. So I still like Cooper. Zeke, you have to start him.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I pretty much agree there. I don't have big expectations for either of those guys in this offense now, but yeah, I agree with you. On the Eagles side of the ball, I'm really excited to talk about this. I've been big on Dallas Goedert. He just got activated, so the 21-day practice window is opened. He was practicing in pads, so technically he could be activated for this week. I think they probably get him into practice, get him an extra week of recovery with the bye week coming up, and then play him in week 10. But a guy who's practicing in full, who's been activated off injured reserve, who I think is going to light it up the second half of the season is Jalen Reagor. I'm all in on him. I think people need to go get him now. The Eagles' second half schedule is cake for pass catchers. He's with Deshaun Jackson injured as well. I think Reagor's got a huge path to volume, and I think that you need to go get him right now. You need to spend fab on him if he's on your waiver wire. I think he's going to absolutely blow up, and I think he will play against the Cowboys this week. And on Sunday Night Football, I think he's going to have a big game. I think people are going to realize they slept a little too long on him and should have jumped and grabbed him a week earlier, because I think he's going to have a great week, and I think that's what you should expect moving forward from him as the last man standing right now in this Eagles receiving core. What do you think? Are you on board with Jalen Reagor, or are you still a fan?
All right, I think you already know what I think. He is not the last man standing on this wide receiver core. Listen, Travis Fulgham is the guy there. I'm very confident in saying that. Travis Fulgham has become the guy. He's earned his spot as the guy. Jalen Reagor has not built a rapport with Carson Wentz. He's had like a couple games with him, and that's it. He didn't really have a lot of practice time in the offense over the offseason. He's a rookie with not a lot of rapport built with his quarterback, which you just can't trust. He's also a deep threat. That's what he does. Travis Fulgham's going to get everything else. He's going to soak up more targets. I think Reagor will be okay, but it's going to be Fulgham, I think.
I'm gonna have to just quick pipe in. They were featuring Reagor on screens when he was healthy. He had a 42-yard catch in his in the first 2 weeks of the season when he played. This guy was drafted over Justin Jefferson. He was expected to be. He's a first-round talent, extremely talented receiver, not simply a deep threat. I think they're going to feature him wherever they can. I think Fulgham really took advantage of the opportunity. He stepped in and has done a great job in the meantime, and I think they will use him moving forward, but I don't think he's going to be a reliable week-to-week fantasy option with Reagor back in and Dallas Goedert coming in back shortly. I think Reagor is the guy. I'm all in. This is the only thing we've really disagreed on in our Week 8 outlook. I want this to be the sword I die on. Maybe not. Maybe Reagor doesn't play this week, and if he does, maybe he's limited. But Reagor is my guy moving forward on this Eagles team. I think he's going to explode. It sounds like that's how you feel about Fulgham.
Yeah. I think so. That's a good one. We'll see where that goes in this game. A quick note: Alshon Jeffrey is out this week, not with the same injury. He got a calf strain, which is he's recovering from that Liz Frank, but he got a calf strain here, which continues the AJ Green narrative. Anyways.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our last game. We have Buccaneers Giants. Giants side of the ball. Is there any? Is there anyone you're dying to start on this Giants team?
No, not against the Buccaneers.
Not against the Buccaneers. Yeah, Darius Slayton is the deep shot, but he's a desperation play in my opinion, especially with Sterling Shepard back. There's genuinely no one I'm wanting to start. You might get stuck
Wayne Gallman in a pinch if Devonta Freeman doesn't play. I think he could at least get some reception with PPR. He'll be okay if you really need it.
Yeah, Buccaneers side of the ball. I love these guys. The Buccaneers are favored by 10.5. So I actually think Fournette and Rojo are decent plays this week. And I think Gronk is a great play. And with Godwin out, I think Gronk is going to continue to see that volume. And Tom Brady's just a smash here. Are you excited to start Mike Evans with Godwin out, or do you think he's kind of had his time in the sun in this offense?
Yeah, Godwin, expected to miss with, I think, a broken index finger or something like that. So it's just supposed to be this week. Mike Evans, listen, I think you can play him this week, and I think he'll be good this week. And if he scores a lot, you sell high, immediately. Get rid of that, because once Godwin's back, once Antonio Brown comes to this offense, I don't want any piece of Mike Evans. It's gross.
Yep. Yep, I completely agree. And let's go ahead and wrap up this week with a quick rundown of our DFS lineups that will be competing against each other. Last week, I beat you 180 to, I believe, round one. What was it?
It was like 167 or something. We both won money, so that's the good news.
There we go. Yeah. This week, my lineup is pretty interesting. I got Jimmy G as the cheap play versus Seattle, Derrick Henry, and Jonathan Taylor at running back. Devontae Adams, Tyler Boyd, Brandon Ayuk at receiver. I got Jimmy Graham at tight end. I'm flexing Darrell Henderson, and then I'm starting the New Orleans Saints defense against the Bears.
All right, I like that. Very different this week. I know we had a lot of similarities last week. This week, I've got Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. I got Dalvin Cook and Gio Bernard as my running backs. That's susceptible to change if Joe Mixon does play, so we'll keep an eye on that. But Devontae Adams, smash play against Minnesota.
Oh yeah.
Travis Fulgham. So I guess I'm putting my money where my mouth is.
Oh, okay.
Robbie Anderson.
Go 2 straight wins. I love it. Okay.
Robbie Anderson as my third wide receiver. I'm taking a little flyer here as my tight end with Harrison Bryant. Just hoping for another touchdown week. He was really cheap, so I kind of had to. And Cole Beasley in the flex with the Chiefs defense.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see how that plays out. Tucker, any closing comments here as we wrap up our Week 8 preview?
Start Fulgham,
Okay. If Rager plays, I think he's going to – if he's not limited, I think he's going to ball out. Rager is my guy rest of the season on the Eagles offense. I mean, if that's your same confidence level with Fulgham, is it? Then we have a fun narrative to track the rest of the year because
definitely,
man, I think Fulgham is just I think he's going to be okay. I think they're going to use him a little bit. He's earned a role, you're right, but it ain't a role I want to start in fantasy. So let's see how this plays out. It's Rager season, baby. I hope he's activated. All eyes will be on that game Sunday night. Tucker, this has been real. I'm excited for Week 8. We'll see how this all plays out. We'll be back to recap everything on Monday.
Sounds good, man. Talk to you then.
All right. Talk to you later.
Peace.
I forgot to end the broadcast.
I noticed.
Okay, end broadcast.